Hey everyone, today I'm going to be reviewing my scariest MOC that I've ever built. I don't usually build guys like this because they take some interesting part usages, and I prefer to build more typical standard guys. He took me about an hour and a half to build, and I would say he's probably about 200 pieces. It took me a while to get a stomach that I liked, because I wanted him to look very destroyed and kind of messy. So I think I got that look across with the stomach. Unfortunately, he has a lot of these blue Technic pieces, which I hate seeing those. Turning him around back, he's even messier. I put all this rigging attaching to his upper arms just so they wouldn't flop around. And it actually works pretty well. It swivels and they can move independently. I also put some little bars going to the lower arms. So he actually stands pretty well, but you kind of want to have all four of his legs on a surface at a time. You can kind of get a pose like that, where he does have one arm not connected or not on the table, but you cannot take two arms off because he's very unbalanced the more limbs you take off. He's probably about 3 or 4 pounds, so he's not very heavy. And that's good because it's not wearing out these CCBS joints. I typically don't use this many CCBS joints because most of the time I completely custom build the limbs out of Technics. Like this guy, I don't think he has even one CCBS joint. At least not for his arms or legs. But I just couldn't custom build this guy's arms because that would have taken so many Technics, and I'm not prepared to part with that many Technics because I'm still building MOCs, and I don't want to break him anytime soon. And so I used the minimal amount of useful pieces on him. I haven't decided what his name is, so if you have a good idea for what his name should be, just comment down below. Now I'll go a little more in-depth with the body, because that's really the bulk of the creation. The body probably took me the longest, maybe an hour to build. The limbs really went together fast. The hardest part of the limbs was finding all of the hand pieces. I like how the body went together. It's a little loose right there just because those aren't connected the best. I like this shoe piece that I used here. I love all the different bionicle feet, and I try to use them on the body of most of my MOCs because I think they have cool designs. I like all the pipes and pistons going through his body and all the wires. It actually takes a lot of time to just run these wires through and get them to look how you want them to. I used this bending axle piece, bending bar piece, that goes all the way across through the shoe, all the way to the other side to connect these little pieces right here that connect this big. It's actually a muffler piece from Lego just to connect that up. And that connects all the way right here to the wires, so it takes a while to get a lot of intricate details, as you can see. And sometimes those details like to pop off like this wire. He is kind of a messy build. Like, I don't think I could rebuild him if I broke him, just because he's so unsymmetrical in places. And he looks good, but also I don't like parts of him at the same time. A lot of what you see is actually just held together by wires, which is kind of a unique building style, I guess you could say. I tried to make him look very old, so I actually took off one of his arms. Because originally he was going to have 2 arms. I think this one was going to have a spike on the end of it. But I decided it would be cooler if he just didn't have this arm. This one over here is just kind of weak and small. I thought about putting an armor plate on this, but I just decided it would look better unarmored. I don't think there's much else to talk about. I hate that wire back there because it comes off a lot. And I don't actually know where it went, so that's too bad. That's one of the things I don't like about him. He has a lot of wires, and so sometimes they'll just pop out if they're not connected in good enough, which is really too bad because I like how it looks with all the different wires, but some of them I might have to take out if they come out too much. So I wanted to basically make him look like a pile of junk, and he kind of does get that across pretty well. He's pretty multicolored with the different wires. I didn't really feel like putting any actual Hero Factory armor plate pieces on him, just because I think that would kind of ruin the effect. I like putting details on my creations through Technic pieces, not using pre-built Lego or Hero Factory pieces that just add artificial detailing. I like to sculpt them with the actual pieces given and not special pieces. Another detail I don't know if I've pointed out yet, but I'm sure you've noticed, is both of his legs, or his old legs, are gone from the knee and down. I think that's a pretty cool detail, because that explains why he has to walk around on his arms. I don't know the story behind him yet, but I do plan to do a 30-minute stop motion with him as the villain. I don't have much on the plot yet, but some of my brothers are helping me on that. And it will be probably the best stop motion I've ever made, but I can't confirm or deny whether it's happening yet or not. If it is happening, it'll probably be within 6 or 7 months, which I know that's a very long time. But hopefully it does happen, because I really want to animate something with this guy, even though he's going to be very tricky to animate at times. Now onto the arms, you'll see that they're basically just a bunch of CCBS joints with wires and an occasional grouping of a few Technic pieces, which I think they get across what I'm kind of going for with the very stitched together and old vibe. I like how this arm looks in particular. I like the hand. I like how much movement that the wrist has, and whatever you consider this, because it's kind of like a shorter length of the arm. It's kind of weird looking. I've thought about connecting it to that little piece right there, just so it would all stay together like one joint and then only the wrist would move, but I think it would take away a little extra movement in the hand. Now onto the arms. You'll see that it's basically just a bunch of CCBS joints with wires and the occasional grouping of Technic pieces. The wrist moves very well, just the ball joint and the hand. I made every hand different so it'd look very stitched together and old and rugged. I don't really know what you consider this right here, because if this joint didn't move, I guess you would consider that the wrist. But I don't know. I thought about connecting it right here just so that it would be like a long continuous joint, and so the wrist would be the only thing that moved. But I think that would take away a lot of movement right here. I think that can actually be used for some good posability. Now on to the next arm, you'll see that it's basically the same, just the hand is different and it's a little shorter. All of the arms are the same in this little area right here with the ball joint and the weird area. And I like this hand. It's a lot different and it's smaller, so it can't really grab things too well. But that's okay, because every hand does need to be different. Now onto the other back arm. It's just as short as the other one. It has the same wrist thing in this weird little area right there. I like this hand. It's missing its pinky finger, and it's just kind of typical. None of the claws are miscolored, so it's probably one of the newest hands. Now on to the next arm. It's pretty much the same. This is like the only part with an armor plate. Actually, up here has 2 armor plates. So there's only 3 actual CCBS armor plates on this MOC, and this arm has 1 of them. And this hand, it might be a little older. It's got some tan fingers, and it's pretty much completely black. And it looks pretty good. I like how all of the arms move very, very well. I think that will actually be pretty easy to animate. But I'm going to have to use a stand and edit out the stand to hold him up, because if I'm taking multiple arms off at a time, then he won't be able to balance. Now we're going to take a look at my personal favorite part of the MOC, the head. So here's his head, probably one of the coolest custom heads that I've ever built. His jaw can open up super wide, which I don't think I'll ever open it that wide in a stop motion. I don't think I'll need to. You can give him an overbite and an underbite, but I prefer his bite to be pretty much perfect because I think it looks the scariest like that. And having it a little open looks pretty intimidating too. I don't know my thought process behind the head. I think it just turned out pretty good. I like the silver eye here. It looks very old. I doubt he can see out of that eye. And also, this thing can spin, this little cap over the red eye. The design for the head is very simple. It's probably only like 20 or 30 pieces. I think it's probably one of the most effective heads that I've ever built. Here's a quick size comparison. This is my current biggest mock up to him. So, he's pretty big, I would say. He doesn't have a ton of parts, but he can just stand up pretty tall with his extra arms. So, he's probably about middle of the road to a little above average in height. Overall, I really enjoyed building him and doing this review. If you have any questions or if you just want to comment, tell me down below in the comment section.